Okay, Paul, you've said that growth used to be a solo pursuit. Now it's more of a networked one. What's changed?
Yeah, um, a lot, a lot in the last really 15 years, I suppose, something along those lines. So if you look back, say 15 years ago, really before um, the networking effect of social media really came into play, and the internet became a much more networked entity. Um, Typically, the way people approached growth was through fairly traditional means, right? You go to school, you go to college, you'd build a set of skills that were associated with the job that you were moving towards. Um, and maybe there were some books, and there were some books in the library that would be part of your reading list, and that might be part of your formal studies. And then once you entered into the business world, maybe somebody would like hand you a copy of this book or that book and say, "Hey, we really find this book really interesting." So all of that is kind of very solo, even though you're attending classes alongside other people. But now what's really interesting is that with the explosion of online communities, but also peer collaboration, and with people sharing knowledge not just across the hallway but across the globe,
Hmm.
we are being constantly exposed to new ideas and new ways of working from people from potentially all walks of life.
Mm.
And so what that means is that the act of growth involves a community as much as it does a bunch of books and a bunch of courses and a bunch of other things.
Hmm.
And really interestingly, all of that is happening while the close community, the immediate community that used to surround us in the office, that is becoming broken down, right? Because if you think
Right.
about it, in again that 15 years ago, your primary development of knowledge from other people would come from the grizzled veteran sitting in the corner
Hmm.
of your office, or the person that takes you under their wing when you start to come into the office space. So you would learn by osmosis
Hmm.
from those people in a small immediate community. That's kind of gone as work has become more distributed, and replacing it has been this loosely connected network that you have access to. So we all have access to more information than we've ever had. We have access to information through this network. And everybody's like a couple of degrees of separation from world experts on things.
Yeah.
But that's happened while the other piece has gone away. The
Mm.
osmosis thing was really simple. You just showed up and it would just happen. This new thing is harder for people to navigate.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously enormous upside, but your osmosis has now expanded to global, constant, everywhere, everything, all the time, and you're in charge of curating it.
Yes. Yeah. You've exactly nailed it, right? So that upside for people that want to pursue that upside is massive. It is true to say that you could become a world expert with sufficient focus. You could become a world expert on more or less anything,
Right.
with appropriate focus and the ability to go after the information you want to go after. And so, you see this through the emergence of, yeah, you see it through emergence of a lot of disinformation. But amidst that disinformation, there are a whole bunch of, for example, citizen scientists who have
Hmm.
emerged, and citizen historians, and people like that, who are developing real high level knowledge, and they're doing so by tapping into that world of knowledge that is out there. So the upside can be massive. There's a huge growth opportunity for people that want to pursue it that way, and it kind of taps into some of the themes we talked about with growth mindset, right? If you do actually have this growth mindset as an individual and you're pursuing it, you can you can grow as an individual hugely in ways that would just not have been possible before by virtue of the environment that you're in.
Yeah. You can do your own research now,
You
but
can. That's a dangerous phrase to say these days, but it's
exactly.
true that you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, without a strategy, obviously you're drowning in information. You have to be able to process all that information and synthesize all that information. So, um, yeah, how do people stay grounded in this?
Yeah, this is something we have thought about a huge amount, obviously, because this is the business that we're in, right? Helping people maximize their human potential, and um, we believe that you need a framework, and what I mean by a framework in this context is you need to understand that growth in this world is not just one dimensional. It's not just picking up a book. It's not just um, going to the internet and continuing down a rabbit hole for the for the next 5 years, right? Those things can be part of it, but it's not just those things. And so we developed a model for this actually in my company, Billion Minds, which we call SCAMP. And SCAMP stands for skills development, that's the S, coaching, advice, mentoring, and peer support.
Hmm.
Each of those is different. Each of those is essential. And you need all of them in order to be able to truly grow the to grow your skills.
Hmm.
So when people like really combine those five things intentionally, they're growing faster, they're growing more sustainably. And as you can see, a lot of that is centered around the people and the resources that you're gathering around you
Hmm.
in order to be able to turbocharge your own growth. So it's almost like building an ecosystem for growth, as it were,
Hmm.
that is essential if you're going to do this really, really well. And of course, you got to do them in different ways because of that lack of osmosis that we talked about previously.
Yeah. And then you have to apply that and get the practical experience, but that can be so exponentially improved
Yes.
because of your ability to go get all that information. To your point, like, to get to the experts is so much easier now, whether the experts have a podcast, a video channel, they are now creators as well, uh, not just their books, but now you're getting an in-depth behind the scenes talk about the book, TED Talks, master classes.
Yeah.
There's an incentive, ideally, for the expertise shared is much more valuable when shared,
Yeah.
right? So it's pretty fascinating. The growth potential that we have is almost as fascinating and meteoric rise as the technology we're watching take off instantaneously. You know.
Yeah. I agree, Matt. And I think that the there's a couple of things to think about here if you're an individual and if you're a company. So if you're an individual, it is really taking those elements that the skills development, the coaching, the advice, the mentoring, and the peer support, and questioning whether you truly have all of those elements. Are you surrounded by all of those elements? If you are not, it is going to inhibit your growth as an individual,
Hmm.
and you need to find ways to get it. And this new world of work and social media, one of the benefits of it is that there are opportunities to be able to go after these things through a whole bunch of different ways, traditional ways, non-traditional ways. Um, but as a company or an organization, you need to be setting up a mentoring program in its own right is going to address part of this, but it's only going to address part of this. So you should be thinking as an organization, how am I going to set up an infrastructure that allows the people in my organization to be surrounded easily with all of these different things? And if I do that, then I'm going to have people grow exponentially in my organization.
Hmm. Yeah, it's it's a absolute must. It seems to me
Yep.
a big shortcoming if you don't take advantage of it sooner rather than later. Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find. I bet you if you retrospectively looked at over the course of the 15 years businesses, if you could capture their score on this type of thing, the ones that are still here and will continue to grow are the ones that score high in that, that measurement of, are we putting this out there for our teams to be able to grow? it's going to need to be there to succeed. That's now the criteria for success has shifted to adding this element. Otherwise, adapt or die.
100%.
Maybe in the next episode.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.